Welcome back to the Cannes Film Festival 2023 Parallel Challenge here on Fantasy Film Ball. We are your hosts, Matt and Arnaud.
That means we are watching an equivalent film to all 21 competition titles at Cannes this year. So in this video, we'll be talking about The Wonders and La Chimera by Alice Rohrwacher. Alice Rohrwacher is, at the moment, one of my favorite directors working today, in large part thanks to Happy as Lazzaro, which I think is one of the best films of the last decade. She is sisters with Alba Rohrwacher, who stars in nearly all of her films, and who is a very famous and accomplished actress in her own right that you've likely seen in a film or two. Alice's first film, Corpo Celeste, premiered in the Cannes Directors Fortnight, and her second film is The Wonders, which went to Cannes competition and won the Grand Jury Prize. So a very impressive feat for a second film. Her third film is Happy as Lazzaro, which won the Screenplay Prize. A lot of us now know her for her Oscar-nominated Disney Plus short Les Pupilles, and of course she has La Chimera coming out this year. We chose The Wonder because it's the biggest prize she's won at Cannes thus far, and neither of us had seen the film.
So The Wonders is a story of an Italian family of beekeepers. We mostly follow the eldest child and the de facto head of the family in lieu of her emotionally stunted parents, Gelsomina. Now, one day at the beach, Gelsomina discovers that a TV show is filming nearby. Upon watching the TV show later on, Gelsomina starts to dream of being featured on this show, and she finds her dream a possibility when they're looking to feature multiple farming families from around Italy who will all come on the show and compete with their products to see who has the best specialty product in all of Italy. Meanwhile, the family also takes in a young German juvenile delinquent named Martin, who's supposed to help them on the farm but proves to be pretty useless. After that, the film just kind of follows these characters as they follow their dreams, as they make honey, as they deal with family troubles. Now, Arnaud, since you are a huge fan of Happy as Lazzaro and La Pupille, did The Wonders live up to your expectations?
I think Happy as Lazzaro is still my favorite, but this one is a really strong film. The reason I love Rohrwacher so much is for a mix of things. I think the way she films and depicts the Italian countryside is very unique. Her ensembles feel incredibly alive. The way her films feel rugged and rough in the texture and in the camera movement, but also tender at the same time. There's a really interesting balance of emotions that she is kind of presenting to us. Like here we have a family that is in a kind of dilapidated house that clearly does not have the right infrastructure for proper hygiene, where people are always in their underwears. But at the same time, you have this kind of weird charm of the sun and the countryside and this family that is, just trying to kind of live with each other despite tensions obviously kind of arising at certain moments. It's a balance I see a lot in Agnes Varda's films, for example, and I think that Rohrwacher does it in her own way. The Wonders to me is a touching film showcasing these kind of very unusual childhoods that feel precarious, but never dangerous. It's mostly there to be examined, observed in a more human way and in a more kind of almost magical way.
This film walks a really neat tightrope between realism and magical realism. Even though there are no fantasy elements or magical elements, somehow everything still feels a little bit wonderful. The Wonders is anchored by an incredible child performance by Alexandra Maria Lungu. She's so good in the role of Gelsomina. It shows off the parentification of this child who is forced to take control of a family under stress, who isn't really allowed to live her childhood because she's so busy making sure that her younger siblings are okay, that her parents aren't falling apart. It's a great performance and a great role for a child actor, a very demanding role.
She's great, and so are the other actors, but there's something about her. I think she's also just got the right face for the role. There's something in her look that is stern, but still kind of innocent. You really buy her in this role.
Alice Rohrwacher's filmmaking also really struck me because it's so gritty and it's realist, but it also has this light and levity. Like you said, this balance between two worlds that Agnes Varda does so well as well. It's like a childhood memory that's a little bit unclean that you look back at. If you see the photos of this childhood memory, it's kind of gross, but if you're there in the moment, it feels wonderful. Like, I remember hotels that I went to as a kid that I'd think of as like, oh my god, that was such a lovely vacation, that if I went and saw them now, I'd be like, wow, this is a shithole. And I think that's the feeling of The Wonders overall.
I think it's a very amusing and fascinating coming-of-age film that never seems to fall into tropes. The only trope I can kind of think of is the whole kind of TV scenario. Oh, I want to try to get my chance on TV, but it doesn't play out the way you might expect. It's not an obsession. The film never revolves entirely around that. It ends up being a little bit different than you might anticipate it being. I'm not as impressed with it on a storytelling level as I was with Happy as Lazaro. This one is much more simple. It's much more straightforward, and I love it for it all the more, but it's just a different kind of story.
So let's talk about Alice Rohrwacher's new film, La Chimera, which is premiering on the final day of the Cannes Film Festival. This stars Josh O'Connor and Isabella Rossellini, and is apparently about an archaeologist who's swept into a world of tomb raiding and illegal artifact smuggling, which sounds a little bit like Indiana Jones. In fact, this might actually be the best Indiana Jones movie at Cannes this year. But Rohrwacher will obviously have a much more artful and subtle approach to her subject matter. We know that Neon has this film, and they have won the Palme d'Or 3 years in a row now with Parasite, Titan, and Triangle of Sadness. And they're also experts on the Cannes to Oscars pipeline. But films premiering on the last day rarely win the top prize. The jury at this point has probably mostly made up their mind. Of course, they're going to be willing to change it up, but they might have their hearts set on giving something the palm by this point. And it would honestly take a miracle of a film to overthrow whatever their current favorite is.
Absolutely, and especially with a year like this one, which seems particularly stronger than maybe last year or even maybe the year before it. I am so excited for this film for obvious reasons, but I'm a tad heartbroken to see it play on the last day for the reasons you gave. I really wanted to see Rohrwacher get a Palme because I love her as a filmmaker and I love her storytelling style. You know, it's still her 4th film, so there's time for her to make a Palme-winning film. Neon being attached to this gives me a lot of hope. It tells me that they are confident in her. I really don't think this is a Crimes of the Future scenario. I think this will be very, very well reviewed and well appreciated, just like her other works. I have no reason to believe that Rohrwacher will slip on this one, especially that it took her 5 years to get another film going. I think this can easily walk away with a prize, and Rohrwacher will be 3 for 3. I'm betting on director at the moment. I think her voice is unique enough to warrant that. As for Oscars, I hope she is submitted, but Italy hasn't submitted any of her last films. Maybe this will change here, but competition is fierce. We have 2 other Italian films in competition at Cannes this year, and a Matteo Garrone film on the horizon for Venice. Depending on reactions, this could be an easy slot in international, though.
And it's possible that this could end up being a large Oscar player if it performs really well at Cannes. Neon knows how to push a film from Cannes all the way to the Oscars, so it is possible that we see it there. But that said, with the Zone of Interest reactions, it's looking a little bit less likely that La Chimera or El Conde will be that international slot, because Zone of Interest has a 99 out of 100 on Metacritic, so that's looking very, very promising for that.
I just hope that this isn't this year's Broker, where the film is not submitted. It kind of underwhelms being played towards the end of the festival. I don't think it'll be that.
But thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Cannes Film Festival Parallel Challenge. Make sure you subscribe so you stay up to date with the rest of our Cannes Film Festival, and so that you can come back and check out our prize list for our Parallel Challenge, as well as our predictions for the Cannes Film Festival awards this year. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.